What? Good evening, everyone. We'll begin our Board of Appeals meeting for the City of Holland. Board members are regular citizens of Holland who have volunteered and have been appointed by City Council to consider applications to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Housing Board of Appeals, Construction Board of Appeals, and for accommodations for persons with disabilities. This board must interpret each application as it relates to city ordinances. This board is not empowered to rezone or to take any action that could be considered rezoning. The agenda is in the order that the applications are received by the city. The presence of 4 board members is required for a quorum. It also takes 4 concurring votes to approve applications. When your application is called, we ask that you come to the microphone at the podium and state your name and address. We will hear the applicant explain their application first. The board will have the opportunity to ask questions, and then there will be a public hearing. After the public hearing is closed, there will be no other opportunity for further public comment related to that application. Decisions of the board are final and are effective on the day of such decision. However, applicants may appeal decisions to the circuit court in accordance with state law. If you elect not to stay for our deliberation and decision, you may call the Community and Neighborhood Services Department after 8:30 tomorrow morning to learn the results. Meetings are streamed live online and recorded and available to view on the city's YouTube channel. Before we read the first item, did we want to amend the agenda to address goldenrod first? Just in case there's anyone here for that?
Sure, we could, yeah.
Okay.
Make a motion to amend the agenda to bring up the goldenrod application first and then proceed through the agenda as proposed.
I second.
Got a vote on it, I guess, or is it a yay or a nay?
Is this a vocal vote? A voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. Motion passes. To address our second application first tonight, and that is 712 Goldenrod Avenue.
Does Jennifer need to go through?
Yeah, I think we have to read the application first.
The application is for 712 Goldenrod Avenue, application number 24.09Z. William Sickle, on behalf of the property owners, is requesting a special exception to divide the property at 712 Goldenrod Avenue into 4 flag lots. Each proposed flag lot would have legal access to a public street. The Board of Appeals can approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on this one? Anybody?
I received an email from the applicant requesting that this application be postponed to the October Board of Appeals meeting.
Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the proposed postponement to the October 24th meeting.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, we have motion, we have a second to postpone this application to the next meeting on October 24th. This will be a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. So 712 Goldenrod Ave application will be postponed to the October 24th meeting. At this time, we will go back to the first agenda item. And can our clerk please read that item?
This is for 763 Plasman Avenue, application number 24.08Z. Laura Doberstein is requesting a special exception to operate a group child care home from her house, located at 763 Plasman Avenue. She is requesting permission for up to 14 children. The Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist.
Thank you. Could the first applicant approach the podium, state their name and address, and explain the application?
My name is Laura Doberstein. Address is 763 Plasman Avenue. And I am requesting that I get the variance for the group child care home. Do I need to explain like the parking and, okay, so the parking would be right in front of the house or in our driveway, and the play area would be in the backyard.
Yeah, we moved, we discussed with Tricia possibility of, with our neighbors' cooperation, having it on the side of the house. After talking with our neighbors and Tricia, found there was plenty of square footage in the back, and our lot is kind of on a hill, so it'll almost not even be seen.
Okay.
And the part of the, we have a large terrace area on the lot, and so parking and drop off would be very quick and kind of, because there's a city bus route that runs that corner too. That would be, pretty inconsequential for other residents.
Okay.
I'd also like to say, we have also had great interest from the neighborhood, almost relief at the possibility of having a child care option in the neighborhood as well.
Okay. Questions from the board?
We did get a letter from someone showing some concern about parking in the front. How do you plan on, are there congestion times of the day that do everybody come at once, or how does the parking actually work at the end of the day?
So most of her
Pickups are usually staggered.
yeah,
I'm sorry,
Pickups are usually staggered based on need.
are they staggered?
yeah, there's
Yeah.
almost no pickup and drop offs where it's multiple families at the same time. So
Oh.
that's just like just in case, more than likely. Like one family comes at 8, the next one doesn't come till 9:30, one comes at 10, and they all leave at different times because they all work at different places. Which mean that they will almost never be more than one vehicle there at the same time.
Okay,
And we have a very large driveway in our vehicles. One of them goes in the garage and my truck parks off to the side, so our entire driveway is also able to be used. So it's not like there's gonna be, 10 cars parked on the terrace, making it look crazy or anything like that. So no toys out front. We bought another garbage refuse bin from the city so that the extra bodies don't create extra waste that creates an eyesore either. So we have the daycare has its own garbage can.
okay. I have another couple of questions about your backyard, what's considered the play area.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
The map that you provided for this area is a little bit deficient, considering the list of things that are listed there that you're supposed to have included in the map. So it's supposed to be a site plan drawn to scale, showing all the streets in the area, showing your lot lines and so forth. And most of those things are not available on your map. And so it's difficult for us to understand a few things, like the calculation of 1,400 square feet of play area. I don't know, we're not convinced that there is 1,400 square feet, but we don't have the ability to measure anything because we don't see lot lines, we don't see hardly anything that's not drawn to scale. So I wondered how you did, or can you explain how there is 1,400 square feet back there?
I apologize for that. I thought that the lot lines, the GIS images were with that paperwork, just because Tricia had them when she gave them to me. That's my fault. The patio of our backyard, which is covered by a deck, is 880, and so we use that. And I did split that into triangles. I'm a real estate agent, so it's just something I do. I'm kind of familiar with. So I broke it into triangles. And there's also the drainage ditch that runs throughout the backyard, and we obviously don't want kids playing down in there. So we decided I pieced triangles together from where it begins to be flat on the north side of the backyard, and then it gets bigger, kind of in a cone shape, along that south side to the 32nd Street side. And each triangle that I measured was about, I think, 70 square feet. And then piece them together there, and then I stopped at 14. There's more than 1,400 square feet back there. I stopped at the house just because I thought it'd be a nice benefit to be able to say not only is there enough back there, but it doesn't extend beyond the house. So
Did you, on the north side of your property, did you include anything north of the house itself?
Nope, because as Tricia pointed out, that is the property line, so even though our neighbor was very cooperative, if we wanted to do that, Tricia made it known that they, it cannot be approved zoning wise, so we left that completely out. So the north side of the house, there's like a small path and it goes down a hill, so even if we wanted to, it wouldn't really be good play area. And so we kind of hug that line, the drainage ditch line, and then there's a large cone. I would say there's probably room for another 250 square feet there that we didn't.
So you excluded the drainage ditch of where the land begins to taper off?
Yep,
toward the
it
drainage
starts to go kind of downhill. Yep, and we didn't get, because of the complication of the fencing, we didn't even bark up that tree yet. We just moved. We're just trying to set this up, but down the line we may apply for a permit to put a small, like 2-foot fence to so that to prevent children from going in that drainage area. But at this time, it's just not necessary.
Well, I'm concerned about the drainage ditch itself, about whether it's a safety hazard for the kids that are playing in the play area. And there's a couple of structures in the drainage ditch, the one that has the culvert in it, and then there's the one at 32nd Street as well. So the one that has the culvert in it is quite a possible thing that could be a hazard. But also there could end up be water in the drainage ditch, and that would be a hazard of its own as well. And so I'm thinking that you should possibly build a fence to fence off the drainage ditch, so you would establish a play area in that area.
Yeah, and we have.
So you delineate the play area by having a fence that would kind of keep kids from going into the drainage ditch. So.
Yeah, and we have, that's not permanent, it's just kind of comes in and out of the ground with stakes, 36-inch high black iron fencing, which we started to put on the side until we learned that we couldn't. And so we have another section of that on order that we just held off on until we figured out what we were going to do, and that's what we think we're going to do. Off the end of the house, and then the drainage ditch, and then with 2 full-time assistants, well, 1 assistant, and then Laura being there. That's the whole purpose is that to prevent that from happening, of course.
So
We also have been told that there has never been anything in that reservoir.
Yeah.
except a 10-inch culvert, which is there for some purpose. It is there for conveying water, so
Right.
it could end up being like that. And
Yeah. What she means is that when we bought the house with the selling agent, who was a colleague of mine, and the FEMA flood mapping, we just tracked that it's like generationally extreme conditions, that there is ever any standing water there, is all she was saying.
So you're sort of half planning on building a fence.
Yeah, we just it was just based on what we found out here tonight, basically where and how, and
Okay. So you wouldn't object if we had that as a condition of our approval,
No,
that you established a fence?
no, especially if the 36-inch, if that's sufficient, because according to the zoning for fencing, I think it can't be higher than that anyway. So I would think that should be fine, right?
So he's talking about a movable fence.
Oh,
So the fence that's next to the garage in the yard now,
Yeah,
right?
driven in with stakes. It's got
They can-
36-inch long stakes that stake it into the ground.
Fold that up, pick it up, and move it to a different area. So that's the fence that they've ordered more of and are planning to install.
What we
And
do.
I think Fred is talking about a permanently installed type of
Okay.
fence that
Yeah.
would have permanent posts.
Yeah, and we have a quote for that as well from the guy. We had a gentleman build our fence in Muskegon where we moved from, and was very reasonable. And he was out. We just and without knowing where we could, because we had him do a quote from all the way around the yard. Then we had him do a quote just for the side play area we were planning, and then we just started conversation with him about the back. We just didn't know how soon it would be, necessary. But obviously, if it's a condition, then that's something we were planning on doing anyway.
okay.
And we do restrict fences in floodways and drainage areas, not in height, but in material type. So we would require a chain link or some other type of open fencing that would still allow water to flow
Okay.
through the fence in a
Okay.
rain event.
Okay.
And those requirements are pretty clear in
Yes.
the zoning code, the
Yeah.
different
Yes.
kinds of fence requirements and fences, so.
So we're talking about it's about 12 feet out from the house would meet up with that line of that's about 20 to 30 feet, depending on what angle we put it at. That would get that accomplished pretty easily.
Okay. And how would you, as the fence went north, how would you tie it in? So,
Well, it runs into a hill. So, I mean, honestly, that's up to you because we want to be compliant, but it runs into, like, it would run into earth. There wouldn't be, our backyard goes down into a hill.
could you show us on your map how that would work?
So, this is the deck patio area. This is all a hill. It's about
Come around to this side.
Yeah, move the mouse around, because we got screens in front of us. Oh, okay.
Come over here. Yeah, that's okay. You can use this mouse and move it on this Google map. Google Earth.
Or maybe you could use your drawing. Is the drawing available? Because that actually shows where everything is. It shows the drainage ditch, it shows everything. There.
So, the patio, which I labeled, and that's, we got this, that exact square footage, there. This is the hill. The drainage ditch comes from a little bit further back. There's a small path here, so the fence would go likely from right here
Mm-hmm.
and then go straight out to meet at a 45-degree angle.
I
with the
see.
house.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
within that would include the additional 250 square feet of footage, square footage I told you that we didn't include in that calculation.
The extra. So,
Yeah.
so by doing that, you still think there's 1,400 square feet within that triangle?
More than, sir.
More than?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
that was part of our concern, was that we weren't able to ascertain 1,400 square feet, and where is that 1,400 square feet on the property?
Yeah,
if
and
it's
that's why
there,
it got
so.
pretty complicated. So the only actually though that I learned that method through in real estate through trying to find the square footage of tiny homes because it's almost impossible. A lot of city ordinances say tiny home can't be on a city lot if it's less than 550 square feet or so. So I've had a lot of people recently, I bought a tiny home, I want to pay a contractor to put concrete foundation down and put it on a city lot. And so I've filled out a lot of PUD applications in Muskegon recently for it, and so I learned that you can kind of break into triangles. It makes it a lot easier to work with. So
Yeah, and the triangles that you did take, you said there's more space than the 1,400, but when you got to 1,400, you knew, well, I meet
good,
that, so I
yeah.
checked that box. Roughly where were those triangles? What area did that cover? Can you kind of show me with your mouse there?
Yeah, so this is like a small rock path that someone put that goes down that hilly area. The fence would start here and go as close as we could hug it to the drainage ditch. As far as the straightness of the line is obviously not exact. And so in this area, it would start probably around here, just because there's a lot of plant matter over here. And then it would start right here. We'd start one like going out here to there, here to there, and then they kind of fill in tiles straight across. The only ones that move, these ones along the drainage ditch on this side, they rotate to where the flat side of the triangle is here. That way we don't lose any space from the fence inward. It would just be flat to the fence. So just picture kind of like a straight line here meeting up with the house, and then at that straight line, the other two sides of the triangle come out, and then the other triangles fit into those, like teeth, and form a long, kind of an elongated path. I would say probably 4 triangles squeezed together to make squares along this. So almost just like a long pathway. So it seems like a long play area, not a super wide one, but luckily it's measured by square footage, not, length and width.
Okay.
Because she also, made a known to us that we couldn't use the patio as zone square footage either. So that, we had to make sure that there was enough there.
What's the ruling on that? You can use it or can't use the patio for?
Can't use the patio, from what I was told.
No, the back patio can be used.
Oh,
In the backyard.
well then, we got another 488 additional square feet.
Okay.
Ron, if he were to submit an updated site plan with the dimensions and showing the triangles and how he calculated that, if the board felt that they needed additional information on how that calculation was achieved, would that still have to come back to another board meeting, or could staff
Well, I think
review that?
the board could have it come back to another board meeting, but the board could approve it
Okay,
He submitted to staff to show the, area of the layer.
okay.
And I'd be more than willing to do a couple of them that show layers so that you guys can see, okay, this is what we start with. This is with the addition of the triangles, and then another third one with what it would look like with a fence. More than happy to do that.
I think you'll feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
So have you, has the property been inspected for maintenance code? Have you gone through all that?
So the homeowner, I think it was less than 2 months before we purchased, had a rental inspection done because he was renting it out. We purchased it from him. So they said that he was good with that. We also had the furnace as part of the daycare application. My wife, she'd been licensed in Muskegon for 8 years, so we're very familiar with,
Okay.
So we had the furnace, the water heater, actually both furnaces.
I was gonna say both furnaces, cause I
Yeah.
know it is too.
Yeah, both furnaces, water heater, and then even the AC unit just for kicks,
Yep.
all looked at. They all passed with flying colors. Now her state inspection, where they come in and do, all their stuff,
Gotcha.
is on the 30th. And
Okay.
we have a checklist and we've dotted it, crossed it three, 4 times.
I'm
Like
sure.
I said, she's renewed her license 3 times, almost 10 years in, so we're pretty confident that, we've never had any safety concerns before, and we
Okay.
take our job very seriously.
And then how many personal children do you have?
We have, of daycare age, we have 2. We have 2 older children. One is in Holland Middle School. He's 12, and then we have a 10-year-old that's at Jefferson. And then we have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old that you saw
Okay,
running around here.
okay.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for comment or concern specific and to the point in regards to this application. Is there anyone?
I have one letter that I
Oh,
would like to read
that's
that
right.
was submitted as part of the public comment. So the letter is from Lynn and Sally Mulder, 740 Plasman Avenue. I'm not gonna read it word for word, I'm gonna summarize it. They have concerns about the drop-off and the proposed pickup area, particularly with 14 children. There appears to be room for 2 cars to pull off the street and park on the grass without blocking the fire hydrant. They're concerned about traffic turning onto 32nd Street, how folks will turn around when they need to exit the street, and where snow will be moved in the winter if the pickup and drop-off area is in the public right-of-way next to the road that is not maintained by the city.
Thank you. And is that the only email received? Okay.
That is the only correspondence I received for this application.
Okay. Is there anyone else to speak in regards to this application? Alrighty. Does the applicant wish to be heard in rebuttal to that letter? Or do any of the board members have any further questions for the applicant?
I'm personally looking for your response on snow removal or anything like that. Are you gonna do anything special? Like if you have 4 people come at the same time, you got 2 in your driveway, it's a possibility that there's gonna be some cars in the road. Is there anything you can do to make that a little more safe? Or have you even thought about winter coming yet and how
Oh,
that?
definitely, and there's more than there's.
We need you guys to talk into one of the microphones, please.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've thought extensively about snow removal, and I'm actually considering getting a plow myself for my truck so I can just do it myself, make it, get ahead of it the night before, because it'll be early morning drop-offs most likely. But I, with my wife parking in the garage, maintain that there's 4 spots in my driveway. I'm very confident of that, especially pulling right up to the garage door, where the garage is where they will enter the daycare. So that makes the most sense. And so that's there's 4 spots there, and I can't tell you in 10 years the amount of times there's never been 4 people dropping off at the same time nor picking up. But in the event that it does happen, I can plow off a portion of the terrace, at least 2 more spots, to make sure that if that becomes an issue, that there's a place for them to pull up and pull out quickly. But it just won't happen. It's just very uncommon for that many people to show up at the same time.
And I appreciate the reiteration of the actual amount of room on the driveway.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. There's
right.
yeah, and because I'm like I said, my full-size truck, there's a little spot off to the side. That's where I park. She's in the garage, so our entire driveway.
Okay, very good.
is Not being used.
Thank you.
Alrighty, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. The board will now deliberate.
I'd like to make a motion. If there's no other discussion. I move that we approve the request for a special exception to operate a child care home at 763 Plasman Avenue with conditions. The conditions are that a fence be built to satisfy the city code, delineating the play area and excluding the drainage ditch, and the city to verify the remainder of the play area to include 1,400 square feet. In support of my motion, I would like to say that there are a number of conditions that needed to be met. The property does have a lot size of at least 5.
I'll support.
Oh,
Thank you, Bill. Sorry. You're on a roll.
okay. The lot does have a size of 5,000 square feet or beyond. The area, the play area is free of sharp gravel, glass, and cinder, and it's well drained. The driveway is not a shared driveway. The property's been inspected for compliance with the property maintenance code. The proposed group daycare changed, but it does not change the essential character of the surrounding residential area. The proposed daycare does not create a nuisance related to vehicle parking, noise, and congestion. And the granting of this request does not impair the health, safety, welfare, or reasonable enjoyment of adjacent or nearby residential properties. Is that good, Ron?
Seems to me we had one requirement in there of being registered with 911.
The very first one, Fred, on your list.
Oh, yes, and the applicant has registered their address with 911 as required by Act 116 of PA 1973.
Then we're good.
Okay.
Okay, we're looking for a call for a vote.
The motion is to approve with conditions. Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Bedard,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Savola,
Yes.
and Fusak.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, I think we are ready for the next agenda item.
I'll call you tomorrow.
This is for 39 West 19th Street, application number 24.10Z. Josh and Carrie Hauk are requesting a variance to install a paved parking area at their home located at 39 West 19th Street. The proposed parking area will be set back 5 feet from the street right-of-way line, where 10-foot setback is required. The Board of Appeals may approve the request if certain conditions are met.
Alrighty, well, here he comes. Thank you very much. Please state your name and address and explain the application.
Yes, my name is Josh Hauk. I live at 39 West 19th Street. We built an ADU a couple of years ago. We're just trying to finish out all the parking and do some of the electrical things. And our next thing was just getting everything paved. We can get a car into that spot, but it is like extremely, extremely tight, and there's not really even a flare out there. And yeah, like extremely tight, like next to kind of where the structure for, I would say, the stairs and kind of the balcony are. So you're really tight to that. When we had first planned everything out, we thought we had a little bit more distance on the other side because we're on a cul-de-sac right on the end. On the other side near our neighbors, when we built our garage, we thought we could scoot that over about 2 other feet. So we thought we had an extra 2 feet, but we had to shift it just because of fire code stuff when we rebuilt it based on our old garage compared to when we poured the new foundation. So it's just really tight, and if you look downriver, it actually be closer to matching if you paved all the way to the sidewalk. I know Tricia doesn't like that. We've had the discussion before,
That's
but
why I asked the question.
like it actually matches.
Study session.
It actually matches a lot closer to be closer than it does to 10. I actually am not sure if you could find 10 very easily of people that live right there. Also, we know it's kind of an oddball space, and you said it perfectly. Mirrored across the street is the only place that I can even find on river or in the city very well. That's a kind of, it's a weird cul-de-sac thing. Probably, I don't know, Tricia was still here, but it was probably 10 years ago. We also like got to kick our fence out a little bit too, because it used to be 10 feet back, but now it's 5 feet. So the pavement would just match our fence line because it's a cul-de-sac now, as opposed to it used to let you go through, but because State Street's there too, there was always a bunch of accidents. So now it's a cul-de-sac. So it's kind of an oddball lot anyway.
Okay. So we have criteria that we go through, you know what I mean? There's rules for us.
For sure, yeah.
So anyway, so some of the questions we gotta ask is, the first one is unique and physical conditions, shape of the property, narrowness, and that type of thing. I agree it's a unique situation where you've been, cut off from the road and you got this. I'm not seeing any real uniqueness with the shape or the size or anything like that of your lot. What does the guy say with the sign? Convince me otherwise, or whatever. Is there anything there that you,
it's a cul-de-sac. I mean, like I said, I think the biggest thing is that if you wanted to one of the things is I know in the city, like, we want to match the kind of the norm down the street, and if you look at it, the norm down the street is not 10 feet off of like River Avenue. It's actually like much closer. Actually, a lot of rentals are on there that are like all the way to the sidewalk on both sides. So the thing that we said probably is closest to it, there's on the corner of 17th and River. You can see like a little strip there. It's a little grass strip where they have parking. That's probably similar to what ours is right now. I would say the uniqueness, honestly, is that it's a cul-de-sac and
yeah, that's.
And the uniqueness is that if you go down kind of that stretch, you wouldn't find a normal kind of 10-foot parking if people are parking right off of that, even in the alleyway. So it's just a combination of like cul-de-sac, alleyway, and like the norm of kind of that stretch. That would be my convincing to you.
Okay, so the next question is, did you self-create this issue? Kind of feels that way because you built the ADU, you had all the control of how big everything should be back there. Convince me otherwise.
No, I think no, that's a great question. I think it's a little bit, but anytime, I'd say living off an alley is really unique in itself. Unless you put your garage all the way to your house, which I'm not going to do, you never have a driveway. You just don't have it, right? So in order to have any parking at all, you're going to either park in the garage, or if I have kids, which I do, and they're all teenagers now, there's not a ton of places to park, even with somebody above. And so I think, like, if and when at some point we rent out our ADU, like, I just want to be able to have that extra space. So we shrunk our backyard a lot in order for us to, because we realized, honestly, we are in the parks more than we are in our backyard in the city. So I could have made a really small garage, I guess, but I would have had to push it still back into my yard and take up more yard, and then try to hope that I had more of a driveway in the backyard, I guess I would say. So
I will strict compliance with the 10-foot setback from the property line unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for its allowed use. You're really using your property for your allowed use. I mean, that 10-foot is not stopping you from using your property to raise your kids, to have your 2-car garage, to have, you know what I mean?
No, it does prevent it from one of the ADU spots. Like I said, you would
Yeah.
have to be extremely close, like
Right.
almost next to where the stairs are. So that would be the biggest thing that I would say. It's not preventing me from not being able to do anything. I would just say,
Right. And then, the next one's about, setback. Is the 5-foot setback variance the minimum necessary, or is there another amount of setback that would provide similar relief? Now, in our study session, which you said in the whole thing, and I'm sure you were listening intently, one of the things that was brought up is that, in fact, you could put 8-foot amount of asphalt back there. And then you could meet that need. Not that I'm telling you what to do or whatever, but you could put the 8-foot back in there and provide some other relief for your driver's side car tires.
yes, so we could put that.
You could meet it as the code says.
Correct, 100%. And
And
then,
the 8-foot is really, if you look up code or rules of thumb or best practices or whatever you want to say, 8-foot is the width that they say a car should be able to get into. 16-foot doors on, 2 cars, so on and so forth. Go ahead.
yes, you could squeeze something in there and maybe not open the passenger door, or if you backed in, do it. If obviously when you pull into a driveway, having flare, it's
Oh,
going
yeah.
to be flared.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I would say is just not going to happen if you squeeze it that tight. And so whatever is, I'll be fully transparent with you guys, whatever is next to you in that 10-foot
Yep.
run is going to get run over or partially parked in at some point, which again would be the norm, honestly, for River Avenue. So
Yep.
I could have a nice sidewalk brick pathway that I pave that is also going to be partially probably parked on, but I just figured if
That would be paving, I assume, but. Oh, she's giving me this.
I actually,
Dirty eyes.
you can, you could put a walkway.
I think
Yeah.
you can figure this out by doing the 8-foot,
Okay.
in my opinion. Do you think the request would negatively impact the neighborhood? I don't think it would, but they don't need a whole lot
No.
to make my verdict here, my opinion. Go ahead. Matt, you might have something on that too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to get back to the application here.
Yeah, not a problem.
Josh, can you reiterate what the distance is from the side of the ADU all the way to the property line?
Are you talking about the stairs, or are you talking about like the actual building?
The actual building.
Oh man, I'd have to go back and measure again. We were just looking at it the other day.
Well, if you just add the stair, roughly. Right?
Now I'm like looking again. Does it say
Yeah.
on there?
It says 13, but is that from,
That is from the stairs. So it's 13, and then your stairs are like
36 inches
I was
wide?
gonna say 36 inches wide, so it's 16 feet-ish.
Okay, so from the edge of the stair to your proposed 5-foot setback is 13 feet wide.
Yes. And that's why I said I think some of it when we originally did it shrunk just because of the actual like shifting over of the unit itself away from my neighbor's line. So
Thank you.
yes, good question.
Anybody else?
So you're saying if he paves the 8 and does a
You get
different
creative after we
compacted
leave.
material for the rest of it.
She's
works.
looking at me funny though, but that's okay.
That's just how my face looks.
I'm okay with that. I mean, we discussed it. We discussed not going in here, and just because, I mean, again, I watch people park all over down there.
Right,
So
right.
Yeah.
I just was like, I know the city.
The
I'm a
tough-
part
the
of
tough
them.
part is you have the space there.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just trying to get pavement underneath your vehicle.
Right, right.
Right, that is definitely the cleanest
Yes.
way to do it.
The issue is we can't, if we start granting or start giving relief, then tends to perpetuate and repeat.
Yeah, and set a precedent. I mean, I would say you're not necessarily setting a precedent because somebody would have to come to you and say, I live on a cul-de-sac. We've already done the fence before, which you did before to kick it out. I kicked it out 5 more feet. So you're actually just like, I would say you're a little bit following the precedent that the city's already set in a lot of ways. And like, if somebody comes in a cul-de-sac on an alley, I would love you to find that besides the one across the street. So, because I can't, so.
Yeah, I got you.
This is more of a question for Tricia. If the driveway were to be made of something like dirt or gravel, a permeable surface, a setback still is still applied? Is this because they want to pave it, they want to make a concrete parking space, and they would be able to have it be wider if it was gravel, or is the same whether it's dirt or gravel, or?
We don't allow gravel as a legal parking surface. So parking spaces must be a hard, durable surface. Concrete, asphalt, pavers, or some other hard, dustless material. So we would not allow them to have a gravel driveway
Yeah, okay.
of any size.
Yep. So they have to have something with pavers or concrete, asphalt. Okay, so there's no relief by using a different material in terms of sizing. Okay,
Nope.
thanks.
Good question.
And your minimum width is 8 feet.
The minimum width for a legal parking space, according to the zoning ordinance, is 8 feet wide.
Okay.
So when we do plan review for a commercial
Okay.
property and they're gonna put in 12 parking spaces, they all have to be a minimum of 8 feet wide.
Okay.
I totally get and understand why you'd want to keep the cohesion going by paving along your fence. That makes a lot of sense. I think it'd look good. But at the same time, we do have to review this more or less based on numbers. And if there's something truly unique about the property, that's when we tend to come in and make exceptions to rules because there's something very weird about it. I've never lived with an alley on the, I guess technically the back of the house, right? So the cul-de-sac is in front and then the alley is in the back. But at the same time, if we treat that kind of like a street, it's not terribly unique. So, you know, you were mentioning that living on an alleyway is kind of a unique experience, but I don't know. I'm not sure that from a zoning perspective that I could necessarily say, well, that is a really unique situation. So that's kind of one element of this that I was kind of struggling with, is that at least I could see how living with an alley would be a little bit different and more unique than what I'm used to. But I think from zoning, it's not that much different. So
I'm okay with it. I think the biggest thing is, even as I'm looking at it, like if you take 8 out of 13, we're still going to be too close now. Do you know what I'm saying? If I put an 8-foot strip in there, I'm going to be at around 5-ish. I guess that's what we're saying. But
Which would give you the 10-foot setback from
Yeah.
the sidewalk.
yeah,
Which when
So to
you
be
look-
exactly-
When you look at the writing,
the exact amount. Yes. Okay.
So you would be able to get a parking space in there. It would be narrow, and I understand. You know, when I park at work, a lot of times I'm parking between 2 huge SUVs with my little car, and it feels like there's no space, and it is difficult to get out. I'm understanding there. On the stairwell side is the key problem here, right? Because it's open on the other side.
Yeah.
So any place where if you've got an 8-foot wide parking space paved there, and you want to park right in that space, when it's parked properly in there, you don't want to drift into the grass or whatever you decide to have on the other side there, right? Where is the structure? When you're looking from this top down, is that structure for the stairs? Is that going all the way out? How far out and close to the street does that get? Because it looks like
To
there
like
might
the
be a
back
smidge.
alley. So it runs towards the back alley is kind of what you do when you go up, and it doesn't even go to the edge of the garage. So it's probably, I don't know, 10 at least, like 8 to 10 feet from the alley at least, because it doesn't finish even at the end of the property of the house. I'd have to go look at it again. Sorry, should know all my measurements.
So it would be possible with an 8-foot wide parking space. You wouldn't necessarily collide into your stairwell if you're coming from the west and you're driving east there. it's not like the stairwell is right there on top of the alley, that you've got a pillar right on top of the edge of the
Yeah,
alley.
yeah, you
It's
would
not
just
that
have to swing
close.
in. Yeah, yeah. I
Just
mean,
have
that's
to
the
be a
biggest
little
thing.
careful.
So,
Yeah, okay. And sometimes we have to ask questions that we know the answers to, because people watching the, you know, the meeting don't know.
I'm
They
okay-
haven't
I'm
been in our
okay
study
with that.
session,
Give
so-
them their money's worth.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
Are there any other questions from the board? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, at this time, we're going to open for public hearing for comment or concerns specific and to the point in regards to this particular application. And do we have any correspondence on this one?
No correspondence received.
Thank you. All righty. Well, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing, seeing as there's no one speaking to this particular application. The board will now deliberate. Does anyone need to talk anything out, or is any?
For the first point about the unique circumstances or physical conditions with the property, kind of a question, I guess, for Tricia. I would think that alleyways are fairly common within city limits, so we couldn't necessarily say, where I grew up, there were not alleyways in the city that I grew up in. But for Holland, this seems pretty typical to me, at least from a layman's perspective. But do you have any idea of just how common? Do we have any idea how many units have an alleyway in the back like this one does?
Nope. I can tell you alleys are fairly common. We have them off of Pine, off of Maple, Washington, Venralty, more on the west, few more on the west side than we have on the east side of the central downtown area, but alleys are very common in the city.
I think they're becoming less common, but only because people are starting to push into them and use street side parking. when-
We
when
had
they can.
several alleys vacated, I would say, in the 90s and early 2000s to try to reduce crime, but we could only vacate alleys where folks did not use them for driveway access. So we still have quite a few alleys in the city, particularly Venralty, 17th Street, 18th Street, 19th Street area, that lots of folks still use those alleys for driveway access to their property. So I would, in my opinion, having a garage or access off of an alley, that in itself does not appear to be unique in the city of Holland.
Thank you.
Make a motion to deny.
I'll support.
Okay, finds of fact. First question, that's why I walked through all those questions. I think after discussion, I do not believe that there are unique circumstances or physical conditions with the property such as narrowness, shallowness, shape, et cetera. We talked about the alley. You're on a corner lot. I don't think that's there. Did the owner, is it self-created? In my opinion, I believe it is. You did have control of the backyard and everything that's going on there when you built the structure. Will strict compliance with the 10-foot setback for the property line is unreasonable for the property owner? I don't think it is. I think, as we discussed, there's ways of making that work. So I would say that is not unreasonable. Is the 5-foot setback variance minimum necessary? I would say no. Like I say, I think you could put 8-foot paved in there. You can meet the letter of the law. Life will go on. So I would say no there. And then I don't think even if you got the variance or the approval here tonight, that it would be negative or impact the neighborhood or surrounding areas in a negative way.
All good?
Looks good.
All righty. Jennifer, I think we need to call for a vote.
The motion is to deny the application. Bedard,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Savola,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
and Fusak.
Yes.
The motion to deny passes.
No, you answered my question.
Have a good day. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, and our final application.
The application is for 99 East 34th Street, application number 2411Z. Jake and Melanie Nelson are requesting a variance to install a deck at their home located at 99 East 34th Street. The deck would be 1 foot from the side property line where a 3.5-foot setback is required. The Board of Appeals may approve the request if certain conditions are met.
Thank you. Could the applicant come on up, state your name and address, and explain the application?
I'm Jake, and this is my wife Mel, and we live at 99 East 34th Street. So we're requesting a non-use dimensional variance for our deck to set back for our residential property. The zoning requirement is 3.5 foot setback in from the side property line. We are requesting a variance in order to extend our deck to our fence line, which is 1 foot from our property line. We are seeking a setback variance due to narrowness. The house was built 13 feet from the property line, leaving 12 feet from the sliding door to our fence line. The setback will create an unnecessary gap between the fence and the deck, rendering 78 square foot useless and creating an unnecessary hazardous drop that spans 26 feet. The position of the house and fence is the reason for the variance. I mean, we had nothing to do with either, and I don't believe, the previous owners did as well. I believe the fence was built 2 owners ago. The 2.5 foot gap between the fence and the deck will cut off 76 square feet, like I mentioned, of deck and cause a hazardous drop off. Furthermore, the setback will cause a narrow walkway about 6 feet between the stairs heading down to the deck and to the edge to the edge of the setback. The variance is the minimum relief to safely and effectively use our deck on the east side of the property without causing any burden on the neighborhood or anyone else. Extending the deck to the fence line will cause no adverse impact on our neighborhood or any other houses nearby. The fence blocks any potential property dispute and will allow us to operate within our designated property line without extending into the neighbor's property. And it's also, I also wanted to note that the fence, we did extend it upward, so the issue of privacy is no longer there. When we're standing on the deck, we don't look into our neighbor's window because of the extension to the fence, so.
Questions from the board?
You said this was built, you think, two owners ago.
The fence was.
Great, the fence was. Do you know roughly when that was? Okay, it's okay if you don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not off the top of our head.
Yep.
So the fence was built like 2 owners ago, and the deck, how recently was the deck built?
So the deck was built last year. Yep.
Okay.
And it's important to note that, so when we moved in, we had a fence extension outward, and there was a tree there that was kind of in between our neighbor's property and our house. And I had thought that our property line extended to the end of that extension. We cut the tree down, and our neighbor moved in, and she had it surveyed, and come to find out the property line was not, it was inside that extension, so she made us, remove that extension and put the fence back in. So when we built the deck, I had assumed that the property line extended outward. I mean, we would have done this regardless before we knew that. Like, we would have done this, we would have tried to get this variance regardless. So, yeah, I just thought that was important to know.
Was there a deck there before, and it was just deteriorated, and you wanted to build?
There was
a
actually
replacement?
nothing there.
Okay.
So we moved in, there was no deck there, and the side door was kind of just blocked off when we moved in, because it was just like it was like a 5-foot
Yeah,
drop or a 4-foot
I
drop.
don't know if you guys have this, we attached it, but there was nothing there, just a significant drop from the door down to the, so.
I thought I.
But we understand.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so 2 steps down
No,
plus
no stairs, no.
1.5 feet.
Did you apply for a building permit?
Yes.
You did.
Yep. So I had it inspected, and this was kind of we had to figure this out before he would move onward with the inspection.
So the application was submitted after the deck was already constructed.
Oh,
Yep.
so afterwards.
Yeah.
So if you had applied for it before you had this construction, you would have realized what this was all about.
Yes.
And there
Yeah.
was a lot of lack of communication between the inspector, who we were communicating with through the city, and then delay in them coming to inspect it, and we kind of had issues with that even up until now. Because I think we submitted the permit, it was 2023, they took a long time to get back to us, came out, and I forgot what he said after that, but,
There was just lack of communication, but I mean, that's neither here nor there.
correct. So now we're here and trying to request this variance of, trying to see what we can fix. of
So,
this.
yeah, I mean, the issue that I have is, if we do that 3.5-foot setback, there's gonna be a 1.5 foot, drop off. So the deck is basically 1 foot to 1.5 foot, above grade level, and there's gonna be a drop off, and it's essentially gonna be 2.5 feet to the, to the fence. And the deck extends 26 feet down, so, I mean, it's just a lot of space that honestly, I just don't know what we're gonna do with it. And, I think the privacy issue is taken care of by the extension of the fence, and I heard you guys talk before about a fire hazard. What I don't understand about that is, if it's a grade level deck, I can extend it up to the fence, and it's not a fire hazard, but because it's 1 foot off the ground, now it's a fire hazard. I don't understand that.
I think it's more about access to get to the backyard, being able to run through there with, hoses or something like that. And if it's on grade, you could maybe step up this high and walk across it, that type of thing. I agree, it's sounds hokey, I'm with you.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it more from access to the backyard, having both means of access.
Also, the code is established, and we can't change the zoning code
Right, I know.
regardless of what the
Again, we have
the
rules.
inconvenience.
Right.
If you had built, if you complied with it, I don't know if Tricia said this, but if they had built that 3.5 feet or the 2.5 feet at grade level, that would have been acceptable. Is that correct?
It's odd,
It would be odd, but
You're asking if they built the deck at grade level, would it be allowed?
no, if the deck was built where it is now,
Mhm.
but it complied with the rules that it was set back some from the fence more.
He's saying it was
But-
elevated and then it went down.
If it went down and there was still a hard surface down there,
It doesn't make any sense from livability thing, he's just asking a
right.
philosophical question.
I agree with John, that wouldn't make a lot of sense, but yes, they could whether they have stairs all the way down to the ground,
Mhm.
or they have a deck that's
Mhm.
30 inches above the ground.
Mhm.
You could have a deck with no access off the side, 30 inches above the ground, as long as it meets the setback requirement.
Okay.
We hate these things, by the way.
It looks really nice.
That's the problem.
Thank you. Well, this has
You-
been,
you've
yeah,
been
this has
doing
been
this.
stressing us out
Sleepless
for
nights, yeah, I know.
How tall is the fence extension that was added to the top of the fence?
So it's a little over, it's like 1 foot and 3 inches. So,
Which we did have that
yeah,
inspected.
we had, that was
Yes.
approved,
Okay.
and,
Awesome.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
be careful what you
Okay,
say.
good.
no, I know. That was approved.
She could be your
Okay.
friend and she
Great.
could be your.
I know. So when you're standing on the deck, I made it to, I worked with the inspector, and but we can't see into our neighbors' windows.
Sure,
Like
sure,
that was
sure,
the
sure,
point of the fence, so.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Yep.
So the inspector told you that you should build higher, so you added more
To the fence?
to the
But
existing fence.
The existing fence wasn't 6 foot.
No, so the fence, I built the extension to the fence. The purpose was so we didn't have to look into
Oh, okay.
our neighbor's window.
Mhm.
And I mean, I also mentioned that, so like the stairs, you know, from the stairs leading down to, you know, you walk out of the slider, the stairs leading down to the deck. If we cut 3.5 feet off the deck, I mean.
2.5, right?
No, there would be 2.5 feet from the setback to the fence if we cut, because there's a foot in between the fence and the property line. So
Gotcha.
for some reason, they built the fence like within it was a foot inward.
Yeah.
So,
CYA.
So we're talking 2.5 feet have to come off this.
yeah.
Okay.
And I would like to keep it, I mean, it's just weird that there's gonna be only 6 feet from the, you know, the stairs to the drop off. I mean, this doesn't leave
Is that
much.
what's left?
Yeah.
Along
Okay.
that side, yeah.
And then I don't know, what do you put a rail or more stairs
Yeah.
to the ground?
I mean, I don't know how we would, 2.5 feet doesn't, you can't build stairs really.
Right. You build something there to set your grill on, kind of thing.
Yeah, it ends up being more of a travel way to the back, is what it basically ends up being.
Or landscape it with vines and things like that.
What was the timeline of events here? So did you guys, if I remember correctly, you've built the deck, and then you are doing a building permit after the building is complete? Did someone from the city come and say, hey, you need a building permit for this deck? How did it
No,
come
we went
about?
through the proper requirements for getting a permit. It just took a while. It was myself and my dad who built it. What?
They didn't come back to approve this.
No, I had him come back and inspect it. That's what they're asking. I had him come back and inspect it, and then he basically said, I can't move forward with the inspection until you get this variance issue figured out. So,
So they built it, went for the permit, found out he can't move forward with the permit because you're in violation of the setback rules. And that's why he's here.
So I think what you were asking, he had completed it before it was
Right.
approved as well,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
oh, yeah, yeah.
So we
Yeah.
did
Yep.
everything, yes. So then once we were done and said, can you come take a look at this, it was,
He had it all planned out in his
need to
head. He was
fix
ready to go.
X, Y, and Z, yeah.
got the manpower and jumped all over it. I know how this works.
So,
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
okay.
Yeah. All right, we're going to open this, the public hearing for comment or concern specific and to the point for this application. We have nobody else here. Tricia, did we receive any correspondence on this one?
I did not receive any correspondence.
All righty, thank you. So at this time, we will close the public hearing. The board will now deliberate.
These are my least favorite types because I'm still not sure I understand why the ordinance is the way it is, where it says, you know, you can build the grade level deck or patio to a 0-foot setback, but as soon as you get off that by any amount, then you have to go 3.5 feet back. I'm not sure.
Because you could still put
what
a fence
the-
around it too, yeah, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
to
that's
me, if you follow
like
this, you're always going to if you put a fence right along your property, and you've got a deck that's not exactly at grade, if it's any bit above, and usually when you're building a wood deck, especially, it's going to be above grade, then you're just going to have a 3.5-foot gap by necessity, where there's just a weird little spot there, and you would think that, I don't know, they'd want to stipulate if you want to take the deck out and it's above grade, your fence has to be X higher or something like that. But even so, I'm not jazzed by the way that this is set up, because it feels set up for something very strange that people wouldn't naturally build. I don't think I would stick a deck in my backyard and think I can't go up to my fence. I have to have a 3.5-foot like drop off between my deck and the fence where nothing's gonna occur back there. Yeah.
Well,
think
part
it's
of it,
very
I
odd.
think, two things. Part of it is if the fence wasn't there, you may have brought the fence in if you knew that you needed to be back that far. You probably would have built it exactly the same, but you would have brought it further in and would have been in compliance. The second thing is, remember what Ron said, we don't necessarily need to like it. We gotta go by the rules, and
Yeah.
only council can change the rules. And so, and I said it earlier, I don't like these either.
If they had applied for a building permit before the project, that would have been caught and they wouldn't have gone through this. If they had applied for a building permit and gone through the process, they would have realized that they can't do with the deck what they did, and so it's just unfortunate. I think a lot of people build things without getting a building permit. They're not aware that they even have to get a building permit. It always seems like such a small scale project.
Well, we did get a permit. Oh, sorry.
It's a timing
Sorry,
thing.
sorry.
It's all about timing.
So
We're all gonna be bad guys. Go ahead,
The,
make the
the,
motion.
the timing of it, timing of it, as I understand it, is that they did not get a building permit,
Okay,
squared
can I
away
interrupt
for
real quick, Matt?
beginning construction.
We did issue a building permit.
Mhm.
They did apply in 2023 for a building permit. There are notes all over the application that talk about the setback requirement. And we got a call for a final inspection March of this year, and then we found out it didn't meet the setback. And we'd written the setback on the paperwork, but they did get a permit. We did issue them a
Oh, in
permit
advance.
Okay,
in advance.
In
Okay,
advance.
okay,
Yes.
okay. I take back what I
Okay.
said. So you were right.
Yeah, yeah.
You can discuss that later. But you didn't follow it. Okay, so you have notes. Okay. Go ahead. brother.
Anything else?
No.
Anybody? All right, I'm looking for a motion, one way or another.
Maybe the exiting board member. All right, I'll make it. You're all gonna be guilty either way. Make a motion to deny.
Approve.
All right. Support, I guess.
Support.
All right, I don't believe there's any unique circumstances, conditions with the property, such as narrowness, the shape, topography, et cetera. Current owner did it was a self-created, it is, in my opinion, self-created. Sounds like we might have had some documentation, that kinda said what the parameters were. Will strict compliance, to the 3.5 foot setback. Is that really unreasonable for the property owner to enjoy, the use of their property? No, they can still live there, raise children, do whatever they want. So I don't believe that 3.5 is taking away any rights. Is the 1 foot setback variance the minimum necessary? No. I just don't feel it is. And even if we approved it, I don't believe it's not a negative impact to the surrounding neighbors. I don't know if I said that right, Ron. You okay?
I got it, yep.
All right.
Okay. We're looking for a call for a vote, please.
Bedard,
Yes?
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Savola,
Yes.
and Fusak.
Yes.
The motion to deny passes.
All right, thank you. Sorry, folks. All righty, can we please read the next item on the agenda? Oh, that's it.
Nope, we have two more things.
Oh, yeah. We got a review and vote for the Board of Appeals rules and regulations that we discussed prior
I was okay,
to
but
this.
my friend over here has some questions about, was it page
Oh,
5
yeah,
or something?
page 5.
Talk to us.
Well, this came up, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and thank you, Tricia, for doing this, amending the language. If you remember, and there has actually been a couple of times that when we make a motion to deny something, or we make a motion that doesn't get approved, we are not able to go back and
Right.
have a second motion. And I feel like that hamstrings the board. I feel there should be at least some way that we are able to reconsider and make a second motion. And the reason is that when we're sitting here making a motion, and if it looks like it's going to be turned down, we look at each other like, you know, are we gonna do this or not? You know, I mean, there's no clear-cut understanding that, I mean, now there is, because it's actually in our language, but there's no way for us, let's say if we deny someone's application for 15 rooms in a house, in a group home, and we're all thinking, or some of us are thinking maybe 12 would be fine, but we have to
Right.
turn them down.
And that was the example.
Yeah,
That's
right.
one.
That-
Yeah.
That's actually what happened to
Yep.
us. And I feel that there have been enough times where that has happened to us. It's never as dramatic as that, but if we turn something down, we can't come back with another thing and say, well, we'd like to make a motion to change that or something like
I
that.
mean, is part of that just us needing to be more vocal as we deliberate to say, you know what? Man, I don't know if publicly say, I don't know if I'm on board for 12, but man, I could
Yeah.
probably be 8.
Yeah. Well, you know, at the last meeting I was at, I was trying to get people to say what they were gonna do, because
I mean, I can sit here with a thumbs
yeah, I
up or
didn't
a
know,
thumbs
you know,
down.
and so there was one person that said, no, I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna do. He just,
What do our
Robert's
boards
rules?
do?
Well, I think the concern is that you could keep voting in perpetuity and never come
Right.
to an agreement.
but I. see,
In which
I-
case
you
it
said
then
that the
gets
last time. I don't
denied,
think
but.
that we would. I don't think we like to have prolonged meetings and lengthy motions over and over and over again to try to whittle it down. I think that we also wanna get to something quickly and do it. But this way, sometimes we're trapped into we're unable to function very well. I looked at the way city council handles this, and the language is so convoluted, I couldn't really tell. But it appeared that they have an ability to change or make a second motion. You know, Ron is there, Ron knows if they turn something down, there is an opportunity to do something different than what we're doing.
Yeah, and they're acting in a little different capacity than what you are. There is another rule of 6.8 that says if an appeal is denied, no other appeal should be considered unless, and then it gives three situations. Going back to what you said about, well, 15 was requested and I thought 12 would be appropriate. Yeah, when there's a motion made to approve or deny, well, you wouldn't do it if it's denied, but if there's a motion to approve something at, say, 15, whether it's feet, whether it's people, whatever the number's for, but someone feels it's appropriate only for 12, you can always make a motion to amend the motion to approve,
But
to
before
limit
we
it.
vote,
Before you vote,
before we
But
really.
it has
Yeah.
to be before we vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and,
that-
and that sort of tests the water on it,
Yeah.
because if the motion to amend is adopted, then you've got a new motion there.
So,
Or an amended motion, but if it's denied, then you know the 12 doesn't pass muster.
so just so I can think through that, if Fred makes a motion, let's say for the 12 people,
Mhm.
John seconds it, he starts going through findings of fact, it's up to one of us to then speak up to be like, hold on there, I don't think I'm on board with that, should we consider an amendment?
Yeah, so, if there's a motion made, well, if there's a motion made to approve, let's use the 15 people for a home. 15 people, and then, one of you believes that 15 is too much, but 12 would be okay. A motion to amend could be made for 12, and if it's seconded, then you vote on whether to amend the motion from 15 to 12. And then you carry on with that,
At what point does that amendment occur?
once you vote on it. So you would
Just
take a vote on the amendment, the motion
Right,
to
right, right.
amend.
Yeah.
So before we vote,
Before you vote on the main
previous,
motion.
the
Yeah.
person
Also,
who-
you can make the motion, have it supported, and then amend.
Right.
So in that
The current,
situation
okay.
where we all were on different pages that day, and the motion and support
Mhm.
was made,
You could-
I
you
probably
could've done
should have
it.
spoke up and said, hey, guys, here's where I'm at.
Mhm.
I don't think I'm with your 15 or your 12.
It's a little awkward. I mean, we have to be extremely vigilant and watching each other, indicate something. Sometimes we don't indicate what we're gonna do, and
No,
so-
I agree with that.
But
and
you
so-
could have further discussion after the public hearing is closed, right? The applicant comes, they give their presentation,
Mhm.
we open the public hearing, we close the public hearing. The board can deliberate at that time without a motion on the table,
Mhm.
right, Ron?
Right,
Mhm.
right.
So at that point, you could say, hey, I'm thinking 15, no,
Mhm.
I think that's too many, I'd rather
Uh-huh.
see
Well,
12.
if you come at a
Maybe the
stalemate,
chair.
then you vote, and then if it fails, it
Maybe
bounds.
the chair could run that process and say, how's everybody feeling about this? Should we go for it or not? You know, so, I mean, is that plausible?
I don't think it has to
Well,
be
yeah,
on the
that'd be great.
chair.
Yeah,
No, it doesn't
typically,
just have to be the chair, but it'd be good for the chair to do.
No, I think we all have some responsibility in
Yeah.
making sure that we
Yeah.
come to some
And that would work.
informal,
Mhm.
It's not like
consensus.
casting our vote for president. I think we should all have communicated before we do this and figure it out. There's no secrets.
typically though, in proceeding with the meeting, you'd want a motion so you know what you're discussing.
Right.
You know, but that doesn't mean you can't have some discussion ahead of time to sort of figure out what kind of motion you wanna make. You know, that would be acceptable. You just gotta be careful in not letting the discussion go too far, because if you have an extensive discussion with no motion on the floor, you really don't know what you're discussing. And then you get to the motion and you gotta discuss it over again. Or you don't know what you're really voting on. Cause if someone says, I like this part of the application in the discussion before a motion is made, and then the motion is made, well, that motion doesn't include that prior discussion. So that, you gotta be a little careful with the discussion, but there's no reason you can't discuss it ahead of time. Before the motion, not ahead of the meeting, of course. Before the motion is made, to a limited degree.
Are there other options that we could consider doing instead of doing it that way? I mean, could we write something in here, say, if there's a deny of, a request for an approval is denied, the board can have one more crack at this? Can make only one more motion, or
Yeah.
limiting what happens? I mean, that may be cleaner, and it would take a lot of the guesswork out of what, we're trying to read each other's inclinations here, you know. I'm happy that this language got in there, so if nothing happens beside this, it's clear now, where it wasn't clear. But I still think that we're a little hamstrung by being limited to only one crack at each one of these things. And sometimes it just takes us by surprise when we vote, and then we, I wish we had done something different, you know, and so.
What has always confused me mechanically is that if we don't pass a motion to approve, then that's the same as denying. At the same time, we can also pass motions to deny, and if no one passes any motions at all, doesn't that mean that effectively, well, no one's making any motion either way, therefore it's denied because it can't be approved?
I don't
Yeah.
think that ever
Yeah.
happens, though, does it?
I mean, we try to make it not happen, but I
Yeah.
thought mechanically, that's how it defaults, is
Oh.
if no one's willing to say, like, if no one is willing, say we've got a 3-2 split, right? So there's 5 of us now. If we had a 3-2 split where 3 of us approve and 2 of us deny, and we're dug in, there's no like leeway, let's say, you know, it's either like we either pass this thing or it's not like a 5 feet versus 7 feet versus 10 feet, but it's either, you know, pass fail. In those cases, when you're deadlocked, you can't make a motion and pass in either direction. And in those cases, right, when you're deadlocked, it is the same as denying the application. It's not just, we'll table it, and unless we make a motion to do that.
Yeah.
That would be the only other recourse, is that we say, well, we're 3-2 locked, maybe we should think about this some more. Let's table it, and maybe we can then get 4 to agree on tabling it. Otherwise, it's a denial because it can't be approved.
Yeah, it's either there's either an approval or a denial. There's nothing in between, other than you can amend what you're approving, but there's either an approval or a denial. And an approval requires a motion to approve, a second, and 4 votes. And if there's not those 3 things in place, then it's denied. So if there's no motion made, it dies. I'd hate to defend that on appeal, but that's the way it works. If there's a motion made and there's no second, it dies again. A little easier to defend that on appeal.
So I guess what's always confused me is that we can make an motion to approve and move that forward, but why isn't it just, I mean, it's just the way that the rules are, I guess, but if you can't approve, then you automatically deny, so why even bother having the ability to make a motion to approve, or to deny? Because if you can't pass a motion to approve, by default, it unless you table it, by default, it goes out. So to me, because you can make a motion to approve, and you can make a motion to deny, it feels like there's a mid-ground where if you make a motion to approve, and it fails, that's not the same thing as making a motion to deny and that passing. So it feels like there should be another one where it's like, well, we didn't all just vote to deny it, so there's somewhere in the middle where we're either deadlocked or there's some leeway where, you know, for Josh's application tonight, maybe someone would have said, you know, well, 13 feet wide is not not good, but like 8 feet based on his property and this, that, the other is too narrow. 10 feet's where we would find that's the appropriate amount of, what do you call it, the appropriate variance, or let's say.
Well, so
And
then
we
if,
just, there's like a back and
Yeah.
forth, but, so you're saying we have to do that before a motion gets voted on? All of that has to happen?
A motion can be made,
Before.
but we can amend,
Yeah.
before a vote.
yeah. So for example, in Josh's application tonight, you had the choice of a motion to approve it as requested, a motion to deny, or a motion to approve something else, lesser than what's requested. You couldn't go greater. So you have those options. Once a motion is made, you have an option to make a motion to amend that motion, because you think it should be going a little bit different direction. Usually in a meeting, and under Robert's Rules of Order, you should be always making a motion in the affirmative, so a motion to approve. The problem with doing that in the zoning board context is you gotta have findings of fact, one way or the other. And so making a motion to not deny works because when you make a motion to deny, you say why you're denying it, and then we've got findings of fact. And we have to justify that if there's an appeal. And so you have findings of fact. But if you have a motion to approve, and someone makes findings of fact on each of the factors of why they think it should be approved, and it goes down 3-1, you really don't know why it went down. And so that gets to be a little bit trickier there in terms of the findings of fact. Frankly, a little bit of guesswork.
So Fred wants a second crack at that egg.
What would happen if we made a motion to deny and it didn't get sufficient votes to deny it? What would have happened then?
Then you can make a motion to approve.
Can we?
That's what it says in the rules.
Which is interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Isn't it? Because
Yeah.
it means that you get a second crack at approving, but you don't get a second crack
Once it's denied.
at
Well,
approving if you had tried to approve at the start.
I think there's enough confusion, and you can see that we were in a difficult situation sometimes, and it would be, if we had a fallback position where we could make a second approval, request a second approval, it may be beneficial to the board. That's, I guess, what I'm thinking.
You mean the applicant?
The applicant and the board, I mean, it's awkward sometimes when we get to the point where we're not sure something's gonna get approved or not. And if we're thinking, my God, if we don't approve this, is gonna be denied, and that's really not what anybody wants. They want something else, but besides making an amendment right after a motion's been made, it's.
We do it all the time, though. I wanna add a condition, I wanna amend that to add a
Well,
condition. We do it all the time.
We
That
add
we do.
conditions usually on the front end, and I guess sometimes we have had people say, well, you forgot conditions, and then we have to backpedal and say, well, hold on, okay, now we're doing a motion with these conditions. But for the years I've been here, I don't think we've ever had a motion to amend an emotion the proper, straightforward way, I
Exactly.
guess.
I agree.
I didn't know we could do that, but
Well, now that we do it, I don't, without
That's my
respect, I
fault.
don't think we need to put it in there. I think we need to more understand it and be more diligent on our end. I mean, now that we know we can do that, and it's better to do that.
I think that how it's spelled out here, the additional language to me at least makes it clear now. Okay, if you go for it and it does not, if it fails to be approved, then it is denied effectively. So now we know that going forward, and it's clearer. So we need to change, I guess, our culture and how we communicate with each other before so we know that once we ever get to the vote, that can be the final say.
Right.
So, maybe be careful about, all right, Jennifer, let's get to that vote. And hold on, we have to be
Yeah, I
able to
think we
say,
need to
hey,
say
hold
each
on,
other, do
before you get
realize,
going.
Brad, that if we don't, if we do denial of 15, it's done. Would you consider something else, or, I think it's culture. I think it's understanding
Yeah, I
culture.
mean,
I think otherwise we're gonna
the chair can
create
definitely
some other
slow
things
that
that
down.
confuse us.
I didn't feel that, I didn't have the gut feeling that any of these weren't gonna go the way we thought they were, but.
Not tonight.
Oh, the seating? No, it's pretty straight up.
You know, the night of the Billy Men for Life one, yeah,
Mhm.
everyone was, what are you
Oh,
gonna do?
we're playing
What
with
are you gonna
numbers and
do?"
there's so many variables and stuff
You
like that.
flip-flopped, I know you just flip-flopped from the start, what's going on?
Oh, yeah,
there?
yeah, there was some flipping and flopping going on right
So-
there.
Yeah, I just, yeah, we can slow that down and
Okay.
if you
Is there any need?
do
to-
not agree with a motion, you need to speak up at some point, be like, do we need an
Speak up
amendment or
before the
conditions?
vote if
Before
you're.
the vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there
I
a
can put a
need
pause
to
in there.
include another sentence in this that would point out that someone can can amend the motion after it's been made?
Well, it's pretty standard procedure
It is,
already, though.
it is pretty standard. It could be put in there, but it is pretty standard.
Except we've never used it.
Not from
It's
that standpoint.
standard.
We've made
Well, to
amendments, but
Matt's
we've never,
point, we have a little bit, because someone would
Little
say,
stuff.
oh, we forgot these conditions,
Uh-huh.
and then whoever made the motion said, oh, yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
I approve or whatever.
In every,
Yeah.
yeah, so we have a little bit done that.
But to make a motion to amend the motion
We're just,
in a significant way. is
we
not
didn't
something-
realize we could do it.
We didn't
Or,
realize.
or we didn't
it hasn't
exercise
occurred
that.
to us.
And that's why we have the attorney here.
Yeah.
I don't think we can put everything. I
But you
mean,
know-
if there's a
no.
few
No.
more words or something, I'm happy to look at that,
The
but
attorney that we did have that night didn't know
Yeah.
what we should do.
yeah,
And we asked him, what should we do? And, you know,
yeah.
he didn't know. And so,
Not everyone's as wise.
not everyone is like Ron.
You mean the rookie?
Yeah.
His ears
It's been a
are
long time
burning.
since I've been here.
All right, so,
Mhm.
I got notes in here.
language on this and all, I'm okay with the language as presented right now. You have to decide whether or not you feel comfortable with what's in there right now.
Well, I'm only an alternate, not even here all the time, so.
But while you're here, you carry as much
Mhm,
weight as the
mhm.
rest of us.
Yeah,
That's right.
so I haven't heard any of the other board members about what they think about that. Do we need any further nudge that this is a possibility? To make a motion to a motion, make a motion to amend a motion before the vote? Are we
I-
good with it?
I don't think we do, but I'm kind of a minimalist on details
Uh-huh.
like that.
Well, it's clean, it's good to have clean, simple language,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Okay, so then I'm fine.
I mean,
This is
I
where we
can-
draw
I-
consensus before.
I should slow it down. I have notes in here in a couple different points now about
Mhm.
if it's tight voting anticipated, you know, and do we need to amend the motion or add
Yeah, would
conditions?
anyone like to amend the motion?
Yeah, yeah, I might say that.
Yeah, that's okay though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would-
But I
don't
think
that'd
as
be
the
bad at all.
board turns over,
Yeah,
that
yes.
needs to be explained.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
that's a nuance that
Nobody would think.
we're
that.
just coming into, and we all been here a while.
One other thing too is you have the pre-meeting and discuss the applications at the pre-meeting.
Yeah.
And it would be a great time for someone to say, you know, hey, I don't think that we ought to approve it as requested, but what about giving them half the distance they want?
Mhm.
And we did this with the rooms, but we just couldn't come to consensus
Yeah.
when it came to the actual meeting.
I
So we
think
did
we
have
do
that
that.
discussion. we
I
just
think we
didn't-
do that pretty well overall, but
Yeah, me
I
too.
think so too.
We just didn't, that was an odd talk. That was
Mhm.
just a difficult.
okay.
Okay,
I'm at least glad that we don't have a ton of those.
Right.
We're usually, things are usually laid out in pretty, like
Mhm.
tonight, fortunately, relatively straightforward. I think that it was good to demand some more details from that Plasman Avenue one, for sure, because it was like, okay, hold on, the 1,400 square feet, where is that? You know, you say you measured it, but has anyone else measured it? Is anyone who's not
difficult.
standing to gain from this
Yeah.
being
The
approved?
triangle story.
Yeah.
If I could just add one more comment, I've been looking for this while we were
I know
talking
it's-
here, but this idea of if it's denied, it's done, also comes from the ordinance. And it's been in the ordinance for a long time. I was thinking it was in the zoning enabling act, but it actually is in the ordinance that says if an application is denied, no like application shall be considered, and then gives a couple exceptions. And so that's where that comes from. Once it's denied, it's denied.
Mhm.
And then
And
you have to.
failing to
Approve.
failing to approve is the same as denying.
Yeah.
So once it's denied, it's denied. Yep. Okay.
So what do we need to do on the amendments here? Do we need a motion?
Yep.
I'd like to make a
Motion,
motion that
second.
we approve the submitted amendments in red in our board packets.
I will support. Can we get findings of fact?
Okay, is this just a voice vote?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the amendments to the Board of Appeals rules and regulations, say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor, say aye. Okay, it passes.
Thank you, Tricia.
Next item
Thank you.
is,
No, not yet. That's the next.
Meeting minutes are next.
No, we have to elect.
Well, I think minutes,
minutes
Minutes
is
are
next.
Minutes are next.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the June 27 meeting?
I move, we approve the minutes.
Support. All those in favor, say
Aye.
yes. Aye.
Yes, aye.
Motion passes. Next is election of officers, chair and vice chair. So what do we do?
who would like to make a nomination for someone to be chair?
I'm gonna throw it out there. I'd like to nominate Dan Sorek for chair. I love you, Dan.
Are there any other nominations for chair?
He's watching, just cringing.
Any other nominations for chair going second?
We did have, didn't we have some communication from Dan saying that he would be willing? For those of you watching the video right now,
I think
it's
he
not
said
like we're.
he would be willing to be vice, but he would prefer not to be chair.
Okay.
That prefer leaves a big opening.
It does.
Is Brad available to be still the chair again?
Yeah?
Well, I think Brad has been doing a terrific job as the chair, and I think it's been really clean and clear, and I'd like to nominate Brad to be the chair
Excellent.
I'll support.
also. Mhm.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
How do you feel about it?
Oh,
You can still miss a meeting here and there. That's why we have a vice.
Mm-hmm.
all right. I will accept a nomination for chair.
Okay?
So.
I
now
think
what?
we should have a voice vote to nominate Brad as the next chairperson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
4 yays approves Brad as the next chair.
Okay. Next is voting for vice chair.
I nominate Dan Sorek for vice chair.
Awesome.
I also nominate Dan Sorek for vice chair.
I nominate Dan Sarek for vice chair.
Are there,
I nominate you for vice chair.
are there
Real
any,
nominee, please stand up.
are there any nominations for someone other than Dan Sorek for vice chair? All right. So the motion is to nominate Dan Sorek for the vice chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, Dan Sorek is now the vice chair.
Well, that's great.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you. Dan.
Alrighty.
We're in good hands.
Next meeting date is Thursday, October 24th, 2024.
And we have 2 items now on the agenda. I
Okay.
have one application for Long and Within, a special exception to add an addition onto the back of a carport along and within the existing building line, and 712 Goldenrod.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and
That'll be resolved by then.
Mm-hmm. Right,
We
can
gotta
I
make
make
sure,
a,
so he's gonna be in Vegas, gotta make sure Dan's there.
Yeah, okay.
can I make a motion to adjourn?
Support.
Thank you.
we have a motion to adjourn and support. If there are no further orders of business, all those in support, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.